Hi, I'm Liam Crowley, and this week I chose to look at the dash mechanics of Hades and Dead Cells. Both of these games are roguelikes with limited healing capabilities, meaning that the player has to rely on avoiding attacks in every place possible, making the dash abilities critical mechanics in each game. Hades' dash is a quick blink forward defined by its ability to cross over walls and large gaps, and is frequently used for getting out of the way of attacks. Dead Cells, however, is a slower tuck and roll. Being a 2D side-scroller, the dash is used much more to roll straight through attacks since there is no other place to go. Another difference in Dead Cells is that the dash is also used for traversing secret areas and rolling under walls, something that Hades does not do. The metrics of each dash ability reflects these differences as well. Hades' dash lasts only a quarter of a second and has a cooldown of 1/3 of a second. The player can quickly dash about the map using this dash that goes twice as far as the player is tall. As the player does this, they lunge forward, letting forth a flash of light and a sharp whooshing sound that reflects the power of the demigod Zagreus. When running from one wall to the other, with and without dashes in the starting area, the times were 3.4 seconds from just running, and 2.2 seconds with dashes. That's not to mention that the levels are built in a way that can make the dash anything from a powerful tool to a requirement to be able to survive. And even in this specific room that acts as a refuge for the player and home of Eurydice, to be able to talk to her, the player must dash through the walls. Dead Cells, on the other hand, has a much slower dash. This makes the move feel much weightier and less effortless. The player tucks forward and rolls, then they come to a stop and stand up. And finally, the camera finishes following the path of the player, not locked onto them, like in Hades. The timing for this whole process takes 0.93 seconds, but the player can immediately roll again once the camera has caught up to the correct position. When running from one end of a room to another, it took 4.23 seconds, while rolling only brought it down to 3.60 seconds, a lesser time saving over a longer period. The range of this is only about 1 1/4 the height of the player, and the feedback is much more subtle than in Hades. There's a tumbling sound closer to someone actually doing a roll than using an ability. A basic animation, and the only VFX being a trace of the path that serves more as an indicator for the player than a piece of flair to create impact like in Hades. Within each game is room to make adjustments to the dash. Cells allows players to drop bombs on dashing with a slight cooldown, whereas Hades has much more customizability, such as the usage of the Divine Dash Boom that makes the ability also reflect attacks, so the player tries to dodge into rather than out of attacks.